But yeah, man. So yeah, hey guys, welcome. And George has something special for this Tuesday. We have uh, Porter's five forces model covering Bitcoin, crypto, and blockchain. So, man, this is going to be quite interesting, man.
Yeah, this is kind of going back to the textbook in school and college days, isn't it? Now, me personally, Marcus, I like the Michael Porter's FIFOs model. Now, what I'd really like to do is, rather than doing it, let's say, on Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, metaverse, AI combined, it would be great if, let's say, if we focus only on one area. I mean, hopefully we'll try to do that in the future episodes, but in today's episode, we'll combine everything because I do feel, let's say, if we focus only on Bitcoin and then look at Porter's FIFOs model, it would give us a much more comprehensive and detailed understanding of what it is. Because when you talk about things like threat of substitute, you can easily make an argument that Ethereum is a threat of substitute to Bitcoin and vice versa. But in today's episode, we're going to combine, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and blockchain all together. Now, for our listeners, I mean, most of them who have done MBA, they would know that, Michael Porter, he was the guy who actually derived the Porter's FIFOs model. This is going back to 1979, so it is kind of like an old school model. And he has written a book called as Competitive Strategy, Techniques for Analyzing Industries and Competitors. Now, apart from this Porter's FIFOs model, Marcus, there's also a couple of additions, like you have the sixth force, you have digital and technology factors. We can talk about globalization or even deglobalization after COVID-19. Then we can talk about dynamic capabilities and environmental and social factors that touches based on ESG. But I thought first let's go and touch base on the Porter's FIFOs model first, and then we'll very briefly touch base on those points, and so that a lot of the listeners, this is more catered to students or guys who are doing MBA or masters, maybe into technology founders. It would give them some idea, who are trying to build something as to what they're looking at. One reason why, Marcus, I sent you this message to go ahead and do this is because on the very second episode that I released on the Metaverse Everything podcast, I used our Metaverse Everything podcast, but looks like Metaverse is dead right now. And in that episode, I did actually touch base on Porter's FIFOs model, and I talked about what could be a threat to Metaverse. And clearly, it is artificial intelligence because a lot of investments are actually switching from Metaverse onto artificial intelligence. Now, AI has pretty much nothing to do with Metaverse. I mean, you can make an argument it has to, but things which are not connected to the current existing systems, how they could actually pose a threat. That is essentially what we want to talk about.
Yeah, no, fair point. Yeah. I guess, I'm glad we're doing this because I'm also trying to, I know this will be more for, I guess, academics or, maybe also founders, of the tech variety. But I guess but I think we should, this is also good for people who are also new, like who are just regular people too, because, the reason I state that is that I want people to know that there's a lot of substance. There's a lot of actual value, work, intellect, there's intelligent design, when it comes to Bitcoin in particular. So we gotta have these conversations. At least, look, you don't need to know all the technical stuff, but you could rest assured that, hey, you know what? There is something going on over here. There is actual value to it. It can impact your life in a serious way. So, that being said, I think, it's good that, we are bringing the academic world into it because, I guess for many of us in the space, like I know for me, I've been working on the underground level, trying various things, but I have a hard time articulating and being able to, explain things in an organized manner. So I think it's good to have this, Porter's model to, cover these five forces and see things in a different light. And I think I'm most excited for this because I'm going to see things in a new light I never expected. So that's why we've got to have these conversations. So, which I'm excited about. And I know AI is also going to come into the picture. Yep. So I know that obviously we're going to have a separate, I believe, like a Porter's Five Force model
Yeah,
on that. So,
I,
hey,
I I think, Marcus, would be great, let's say, if you do it, let's say, Porter's Firefox model only on Bitcoin, only on stablecoin, only, let's say, on Ethereum, only on artificial intelligence. Maybe the next one we can do is, do it maybe on AI, and we can have some of the guys, join on board and share their thoughts and opinion on it. Now,
sorry, just before you get into it, like, there may be like 3 or 4 people I have in mind. So I was thinking on a local level, Dubai. I want to get this gentleman. He's the dean of the business school at Canadian University here in Dubai. Or maybe we could bring in one of the two from the Ord Foundation, Dr. Max Lee, maybe.
Yeah,
or also the chairman of the foundation, Ord Foundation, Michael A. Robinson, because he's on the Far East right now. So I think it might be might be better. So maybe we. So I want to propose that idea. If you're going to cover that, so let's have him on the conversation. So, anyways, George, let's get this party started. Let's dive in.
Yeah. So Porter's Five Force model essentially talks about the threat of new entrants, bargaining powers of suppliers, bargaining powers of buyers, threat of substitute and competitive rivalry. Now we made a couple of notes, so let's go ahead and kickstart with things regarding threat of new entry. Now, when you talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, Marcus, one of the beauties of Bitcoin and open blockchain is absolutely anyone can go ahead and build it, isn't it? Now, when you talk about the banking industry, you need to go ahead and get a banking license, and it is ridiculously hard to go ahead and get a banking license. But when you talk about cryptocurrencies, there is no age limit as well. A 7-year-old or 8-year-old can go ahead and create your cryptocurrency, so there's low barrier to entry. Absolutely anyone can go ahead and build it. Now, on a side note, I would really like to stress that, it's really important, especially for tech founders, to understand the pillars of open blockchain. We have stressed this thing. We had an episode regarding the pillars of open blockchain, but the best bet to do is go to YouTube, look up Andrew Antonopoulos' video on pillars of open blockchain. Keeping that thing in mind, I think so far as the threat of entry is concerned, or rather new entry, it is relatively easy for people to, let's say, build an NFT project, build a DeFi protocol, or let's say, get starting up your cryptocurrencies. I think we would remember, Marcus, when in 2016, during the ICO era, people used to just write a white paper and just raise millions of dollars, isn't it? I do remember specific cases.
I remember. Oh, good Lord, man.
Copy-pasted other people's white paper and they have raised close to $1 million. Now, there are a couple of threats to that also. But when you talk about barrier to entry or threat of new entry, it is relatively less. At least that's what I think. But when you talk about the Bitcoin mining industry, and this is one of the reasons why I'd really like to do it only on one specific topic, but when you talk about the Bitcoin mining industry, there when you talk about the threat of entry, it is relatively high, because when you talk about the economies of scale, it does become extremely expensive, at least for now, so for someone to go ahead and start getting into the Bitcoin mining industry game. See, the older or the heavyweight giants are relatively in a much better position. The same thing with reference to Ethereum validators. You used to require 32 Ethereum to go ahead and be part of the validating pool, but now that has been broken down. So I just thought, let's go ahead and talk about it at the macro level. When you talk about threat of new entry, it becomes easier for people to, let's say, go ahead and build on something, but at a mining point of view, it is relatively tough. And then you also talk about brand loyalty. Bitcoin maximalists, they would kick people out from the Ethereum ecosystem, and Ethereum people would kick people out from the Solana ecosystem, and vice versa, isn't it? That is always there, I think. And I do think that, this was strongly echoed when there was an NFT hype as well. I used to see so many people become experts in NFTs in just a matter of 48 hours. I used to argue with them because when they used to post on LinkedIn, they used to post complete nonsense. And they were like, oh, you don't know anything about NFTs. And then I used to see that they have checked my LinkedIn profile. And immediately I've noticed that I'm blocked on the account. So, when you talk about threat of new entry, that is one area I can think of. But other than that, what about regulations, Marcos? Do you think regulations can actually deter companies from entering into the market. What is your thoughts regarding regulators? What role do you think they would play
Yeah.
so far as entering into the new market is concerned?
Because before we dive into we dive into regulations as a threat to new entrants. Before I dive into it, we need to have a Porter's five forces model on RA George blockchain DXB. Look, because you're dropping some facts out there when it comes to crypto, blockchain, and Web3, and also AI as well too. So, because the reason is that we gotta warn the people, right? Because look, I want to make it fair for all these new people coming in. Before they spout about NFTs or metaverse or AI, they need to be aware that hey, George is in the building. And he's gonna bring some facts. All right, he's bilingual, all right, or I guess trilingual. English, Hindi, and he speaks fire. All right, so he dropped that MF truth. I'm not allowed to curse on LinkedIn or something, but so that being said, now on a serious note, is regulations a threat to new entrants? Absolutely, because it's time and time again, unfortunately, many of these regulations has prevented smaller entrants to compete against the incumbents. And it's something with that we also see, especially in the crypto space or the Web3 space, particularly, where the SEC has basically been protecting the incumbents, protecting the TradFi, protecting the old guard from these new hyper-growth, really fast, they're willing to be, these entrants are willing to be the bulls in a room filled with, fragile china dishes. So in that case, I would say, I think it's definitely the fact that regulations, I don't really believe that regulations, any part of the world, have even the regular Joes and Janes out there, to be honest. So, and granted, I'm saying it because I'm a radical libertarian, so obviously I'm going to be one of those guys. But even if you are a liberal or communist or whatever, we have enough academic studies, whether you're from the Ivy League schools like your Caltech or MIT. There are enough studies out there showing that, or you are in the marketplace right now. You are seeing like, hey, wait a minute. Man, these rules are stopping me. And we've seen that also happening in the AI space too. Like, how do we navigate this? So it is creating hurdles. And deep in our, if you have us in a closed room, man, some of these regulations aren't really helping us. We have to like figure out a way, think outside the box, or maybe it's too much of a hassle. And our compliance team, our legal team saying, hey, look, the juice is not worth the squeeze. Yep. So, in simple answer, yes, regulations is a threat to new entry.
100%. And the best thing what governments can do is let the growth of Bitcoin be completely organic. Less regulations or zero regulations are even better. When you talk about
let
China,
the free market reign.
Exactly, yeah. And when you talk about countries like China and India, historically they are not fans of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, isn't it? Now, one news that is developing right now, this is to do with Financial Conduct Authority. They have rejected 87% of the crypto applications, and granted the reasoning behind that is pretty solid as well. And that acts as a threat for new entrants, isn't it?
Yeah. Just FYI, what George saying, the Financial Conduct Authority, FCA, that's the regulator in the United Kingdom. Is that correct?
Yes. And I used to work
just want to make sure people know that.
FCA, they are really, really stringent and they're quite strict.
Wait, what? Wait, you work for the FCA? I mean, dude, I didn't know this.
Wait
a minute, what?
In Manchester, England, for 2 years. So, I mean, we have really, really strong, you can't post. I mean, the job role that I was working with, you cannot post about it in your social media and quite a lot of other. And if they do find out, or even if they do know, you're instantly fired. But regarding regulations, I know that, we boast about United Arab Emirates and it is definitely one of the best places. But There's no privacy coins allowed in United Arab Emirates, so we can't have even meetup events, if I'm not mistaken, regarding Monero or the privacy-related things. So the best thing what regulators and governments can do is let the growth of Bitcoin be completely organic, isn't it? That's what I think. But
I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt because I'm just laughing about the privacy coin part and not being even like not being able to organize meetups and stuff about it because I was one of those guys who organized the Monero meetup, so that was kind of fun, I guess. But yeah, the thing, but that was another good example too because because I have some friends, I know not friends, but I do know some folks who are in the States, I think, who are part of the Coin Center, which is kind of like a non-profit think tank, I would say. One of the lawyers did appear in court about how Monero particularly is pro national security, and it was really and I thought those really interesting points because in so many ways. So obviously it's kind of counterintuitive. It challenges the old narrative. So again, I wish that I wish that some folks would have maybe had an open debate about this and have these conversations because that would have brought a new light. Wait a minute, this could be a beneficial to the national security of a nation, like say for example United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia. That would have opened up new ideas, new possibilities. Because again, as some of these countries in the Middle East are rising up, I have noticed that what you're seeing in the West, they are kind of throwing shade, throwing negativity at the growth of these nations. And I would and sometimes also jealousy too. And I see that. I mean, I'm checking on Twitter and Instagram, so I'm like, man, they're not showing some love to here where we live. So I'm sensing a little bit of jealousy too. So and that can also breed contempt. So for me, I'm all about, hey, we got to protect ourselves from bad actors overseas. So anyway, I know that's a whole different discussion. But that being said, again, it's kind of preventing new ideas and new opportunities for us to progress and strengthen our standing on the global level. So in regards to the UAE and the MENA region. So
absolutely valid point. The next point that I wanted to touch base on, this is more of a generalized view. I'd really like to do it on a protocol or blockchain project specific. That is more about the developer strength. So when you talk about the number of developers actually working on Bitcoin versus the number of developers working on Ethereum or Solana blockchain. Now, the reason why I want to talk this in the context of threat of new entry, let's say if there is a teenager who wants to build his career in the so-called blockchain space, which protocol or project is he more likely to go and join? I do have this feeling that the choices are relatively limited right now, isn't it? It's very less chance that he'll be able to go and join a smaller blockchain projects where there are lesser number of developers. But again, this is more of a generalized view. I think once you look at it from a project to project basis, we might be able to give more information regarding this, and then we can also touch base on the number of users that are onboarded. Really, I'm not sure what the right matrix is, but River Financial, they actually stated that Bitcoin right now has 81.7 million users. I really am not sure if these numbers are accurate or not. But yeah, regarding threat of new entry, I think we've covered pretty much everything, isn't it?
Yeah, so we covered under let's speedily cover the threat of new entry, low barriers to entry, economies of scale. You mentioned brand loyalty, large network in terms of miners, validators, etc. We covered different regulations. And last but not least, network effect. So I think we covered all that.
Yeah. The next thing which I want to touch base is regarding supplier power, and this is something Markose, which you touched base upon when we did the unfiltered chat. When you talk about supplier miners, supplier power, the first thing I can think of is economies of scale for Bitcoin. Now, if you look at the supplier power of Bitcoin. And ironically, in the episode that I released today, I talked about how the Bitcoin mining industry is doing. Now, they are not technically suppliers as such because they don't supply to the market, but in the Bitcoin context, you can think of the mining industry as the supplier powers in it. They get to determine
Yeah.
if they go out and sell the Bitcoin or keep the newly minted Bitcoin. Now, technically speaking, the market as a whole gets to decide who goes out and drops a lot of these Bitcoins onto the market. But regarding the mining industry, there are a limited number of ASIC manufacturers, and that's one of the reasons why, Markose, one of our favorite coin, that is Monero, they have released Story Token, which I believe launches somewhere in the middle of this month, isn't it? Which focuses more on the Monero mining aspect of it. So I think what our listeners can do is maybe go ahead and check regarding Monero Story Token. Now, regarding supplier power, Markose, what about privacy coins? Do you think there is demand for privacy coins, or there is no demand for privacy coins? If there is supply of people want to go and sell a lot of that, what happens to the demand of it?
Oh, okay. I mean, there's a huge.
Because one metric that we often discuss is when you talk about the market cap of Monero. Unfortunately, it hasn't pumped up a lot. Now, does that mean that a lot of the token holders are holding on to it? The answer is no. They're kind of selling a lot of their Monero, in my opinion.
Maybe that could be one case, but but I have to. But we also have to acknowledge too that with the major delisting of Monero on many of these exchanges, actually the last couple of weeks, a lot of the privacy coins have done really well, like Xano. I'll throw in also Zcash as well, but also Monero also did pretty well too. And even with all that stuff, it's still around $160. I mean, granted, like a couple of weeks ago we had the drop, but then it risen up pretty fast again. So, but I still believe, my conviction is that, there is still I think there's a lot of buying and selling going on. There's a lot of movement taking place, and there are a lot of transactions happening in Monero. So I know a lot of the Monero guys have shown on Twitter quite a lot, like the transaction rates, and we have there's a wallet called Cake Wallet by Vikram. I think Vikram or Vikant, I forgot her name, but he's an American guy in New York, Indian American, and they are seeing a lot of Monero transactions for gift cards and stuff. So sure, I guess there is a lot of selling of Monero, but there is a circular economy taking place. So I think maybe that's one aspect to it. But I do believe that in the long run, we will see a gradual rise of Monero. And already, even the late John McAfee, he has stated it's one of the last episodes, right? He's like, why do you give a F about Bitcoin? It's Monero. It's the most used crypto actually in the marketplace. So, sure. There's a lot of buying, selling going on. I guess it is sort of meeting the principle of P2P. But again, eventually, I believe that it is starting to become successful in the black market, just like how Bitcoin did. If history doesn't repeat, I think it's going to rhyme for sure. So, I will want people to just watch out. Please check out Monero, check out the transactions, but even all the negativity is still holding strong. So I think it's kind of proving how decentralized it is too. So, I mean, the BTC Maxi should take note of it, so.
To digress, Markose, when you talked about John McAfee, I'm not sure if late John McAfee is the right word, because knowing some of the things he has been involved in, and Omar Ban, one of the OGs or the kings of, so-called cryptocurrency influencers, he's saying that there's a very high possibility that he's still alive, and I'm definitely hoping for that as well.
Yes. I'll agree to it, because they still haven't released the body of John McAfee to his wife, Janice McAfee.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
which is a bit
Even
bizarre. And knowing the notorious history of
yeah,
John McAfee, I definitely
yeah,
do think there is a body double, but nonetheless, we don't want to, make any speculations. The only thing what I wanted to
yeah,
talk about is, Marcus, when you talk about the supplier power, and this is again more of a generalized view. Ethereum Foundation, in the past, they have decided to dump or sell some of the Ethereum. We've also seen, Solana Foundation do that. We've also seen Uniswap Labs try to do something similar where they've gone ahead and decided to go ahead and increase, the transaction fees. So could it be possible that these foundations, I think it was Avalanche or Avalanche blockchain where they decided to go ahead and buy a lot of meme coin tokens, isn't it? So these foundations, what they can do is they can
yeah.
artificially go ahead and increase the supply as well, which may not necessarily Ripple for that instance. I mean, when you talk about supplier power, and this is something which you talked about on Filtered Chat as well, isn't it? So
Yeah,
complete coin. So that also would fall
yeah.
under, the whole supplier power. Let's again, we're talking more of a generalized view. It would make sense, let's say, if we talk only about Ripple or only talk about a specific or Bitcoin related thing, then it
Yeah.
becomes more constructive, I guess. The next thing out I wanted to touch base is regarding buying power, Markers, which is, if not the most important thing, especially in 2024, because we have heavy duty institutions joining on board. We have BlackRock, we have Franklin Templeton, we have Michael Saylor. They are buying a lot of Bitcoin, and what kind of an influence do they have on the prices of Bitcoin? Because the moment people knew that BlackRock is getting into the game, people were actually anticipating that the prices would actually bump up, isn't it? And this is the whole point of buyer power. Now, when you talk about Bitcoin markers, we are discussing the price here is $54,000, and we are saying that the market is not looking good. What a crazy time to be alive, isn't it? But that just shows the buying power,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Exactly. You know what? I've been, follow, kind of like, researching, all these different YouTube channels, different, like traders and, all these, influencers and stuff. It's kind of funny already, like last couple of weeks, right? Like we've seen all these guys, being super bullish, right? Like, I mean, they're so bullish, like, their faces turn green. Now it's like, you're seeing this. Yes, I think from this yesterday onwards, how many of these guys turn bearish, turn so red? Like I can't tell, are they blushing or are they really bearish? I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but I still believe. I know I'll get a lot of heat of this, but I still believe that we are in sort of bullish signs because I'm trying to like zoom out and I'm seeing like, wait a minute, there is some undercurrent taking place. So. And to me, if you are a buyer, man, isn't this a good time to get yourself some Bitcoin, some BTC, some Ethereum, maybe some Monero, I don't know, or maybe some other, your favorite low, meme coin, which will, can skyrocket if you're willing to take that risk, you know what I mean? Like high risk, high reward, you could speculate, So I don't know, it's just me. So I don't know. So like, if I have a lot of capital, as you said, here, let me just share this.
Yep.
From Baron Rothschild. Yep. Just saying.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm speculating, guys.
I think you're absolutely spot on, Marcus, and something which we touched base on the episode that we did last week. What would make more impact? Would it be more beneficial, let's say, if El Salvador buys Bitcoin, or if, let's say, developed countries, let's say like UK, USA, they go ahead and make an announcement that they're going to buy 1 or 10 Bitcoin every month? You briefly got in touch base the impact it would have on the price of Bitcoin, isn't it? El Salvador, if I'm not mistaken, they are buying 1 Bitcoin every day, which is 365 Bitcoin a year in comparison to, let's say, what MicroStrategy has. It is quite a small amount, isn't it? So when you talk about buying power, do you think, the state can actually go ahead and influence the price? And one thing which we probably should have mentioned in the supplier or the power the suppliers has regarding Germany. We know what happened a few months ago where Germany was dumping a lot of Bitcoin, so we probably should have talked about that in the previous section.
Yeah.
So, it does happen. And a few months ago, even the United States government, they decided to dump a lot of the Bitcoin, isn't it? So it shows the power supply
Yeah.
it has and the kind of impact it has on the price of Bitcoin. But going back to
Yeah.
buying power, I'd really like to see, some massive or first world country go ahead and buy a lot of Bitcoin. But let's say, Marcus, if we break it down even further, let's talk about whales or even early adopters or token holders. They go out and make a decision to go out and buy more Bitcoin. That definitely impacts the price of Bitcoin as well, isn't it? Um, a very specific instance I want to touch base is regarding A16Z. And there was some drama during the voting process regarding Pancakes of version 3. And they were trying to actually overthrow the community's decision. And this was because they had a lot of tokens. So when you talk about in the blockchain or cryptocurrency point of view, some of the protocols, what they do is for all the investors, they give them tokens. These token holders, they have the voting rights, and they can indirectly govern a lot of centralized decision-making processes in it. And that shows the power that these buyers actually have in decision-making process as well. So I thought, let me go ahead and touch base on that as well. We talked about MakerDAO, Markers. They recently decided to go ahead and switch from MakerDAO to Sky.net. I'm not sure if they asked the community for the decision, or was it the token holders who went ahead and made the decision? Now, if it is the token holders who has gone ahead and made the decision, my question is, does it lead to centralization? What is your thoughts, Marcus, on that?
I think you know my answer, man. I'm just like grinning like crazy. So, but yeah, I know, but that's because also I do not know the context about MakerDAO, but it is interesting. They did a rebrand to Sky.money, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know about Sky.net, but I'm pretty sure the Warner Brothers or some studio has already got the rights to Sky.net, I guess, or who knows, for their new Terminator movie. But with regards to Sky Money, the decisions they had to make, I'm assuming it's going to be token holders. I guess what I mean by, it's going to be centralized, I guess. So, which I have no problem. Again, it's all about degrees of centralization or decentralization, depending on the viewpoint. But I don't know. I guess it's too early. So I apologize. I don't recall the context, but then again, but the website is good, so I'm pretty sure that has to be like a centralized decision because, I don't want too many cooks in the kitchen, so,
because
someone got to make the decision, so that's my take.
With this new Sky.money, apparently, the funds can be frozen as well, and if the funds are frozen, they've developed something called as the court system. Now, who are going to be the juries in the courts? It's going to be the tokenized holders, isn't it? Or people who hold the token. That is kind of a different way of saying that, the project is kind of centralized. Yeah. Now, the only thing I can say regarding whales, and this is something we touched base about, notorious whales, on the 18th of September is when Fed Chair will reduce the interest rate. So these whales, they're definitely going to be manipulating the prices few days before the event, and this is the whole nature of the power that these buyers have, isn't it? Were you saying something, Marcus?
Agreed. Yeah. Oh no, just to connect with their code thing, because definitely is going to be some sort of arbitration code system, and I guess one of there's something I have talked to some of my libertarian / anarcho-capitalist friends. One of the challenges I think in our current system is that we do not have a great courts, kind of like a decentralized court system yet. Because right now, what the government is really good at, any government, what they're really good at is they have a court system, to, decide. In terms of this, now, I'm sure people can make some arguments, but I'm just kind of like talking in generality, like, but I guess it's just a matter of time where I'm sure in the Web3 community, plus of AI, we would have some sort of a decentralized way of, how do you say, I forgot the word, kind of like a arbitration or like a dissolution, or kind of like a resolution system to handle grievances, to handle problems, to make decisions. So yeah, I am curious. I'm curious to exactly how MakerDAO / or Sky.money would come up with a resolution system. So yeah. Anyway, I know if you continue on this route, I know you'll go way off tangent. So
the only thing I wanted to touch base on regarding, I mean, this is something which we've actively seen in the cryptocurrency space. A lot of the guys who actually buy these tokens, they clearly have a rug pull as well, isn't it? They buy the token, they pump up the price of the relevant tokens to different social media channels, and they exit the market. And this just shows the power of buyers, generally people have in the cryptocurrency and blockchain space. Now let's talk about the next one, Markose, which is the threat of substitution. This again, would make a lot more sense if we do it specific to, let's say, Bitcoin or Ethereum, but we're talking about it in a generalized way. Now, when you talk about cryptocurrencies, I do feel that with the adoption of central bank digital currency, it would pose a direct threat. So let's say 2 decades from now, if there is a cryptocurrency which is mainstream and if there is central bank digital currency which is mainstream, I do feel probably 2 decades from now, people will actually want to use CBDCs for the regular transactions. I think right now, stable coins are a threat to, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And, Markose, I'm not a fan of stable coins because according to me, they're just replacing the role of a bank. So, right now, I do feel that stable coins are kind of like a threat to cryptocurrencies. And I talk about this every day in my Crypto and Coffee Day podcast. Stablecoin volume most often than not accounts for 80% of the overall cryptocurrency market. And there are a lot of benefits of using stablecoins as well. But what about Ripple? Do you think Ripple is a threat to cryptocurrencies? Because look, they don't follow the ethos of open blockchain. You don't even need an XRP for Ripple to work perfectly fine. So Ripple could be a threat to cryptocurrency as well, isn't it? What is your thoughts about that? I'm sure a lot of Ripple Army guys will not like this, but
no, it's true. I guess with regards to stablecoins, a lot of people I know, they use stablecoins especially like in the third world nations. We are seeing a lot of use of stablecoins. It makes sense.
Would it be better?
Because again,
would it be, Markose, would it be better in these third world countries rather than using stablecoin if they would have to use, let's say, Bitcoin or Monero? What would you prefer them to use?
Personally, I would prefer them to use, if they use Bitcoin, okay, sure, they can use it, but one of the problems, if you're using it, there's the value fluctuation, but which is fine. Even if I'm holding my cash and stuff, the longer I hold it, the purchasing power goes down. So, but I don't know, not many people think like that, obviously. But when it comes to Bitcoin, problem with a lot of the third world countries is that, they have a lot of security issues. And then the problem is that you have a lot of, religious conflicts, racial conflicts and stuff. So the problem is that it is public ledger. So you can track and trace, and it can lead to unintentional consequences. Unfortunately, what we saw with, Binance and now OKX, they have released, some of the info of these, unfortunately, the Palestinian accounts. And that has created a ripple in the Twitter spaces. So, and also, I'm seeing in a lot of the groups too, like a lot of people are upset. Now, sure, Richard Tang has said that, we only showed only 0.01% or whatever, but I'm sorry, but the way they did it, I don't think they really follow that stuff. And you have to ask the IDF. You do that to the Palestinian people and also to the people in the MENA region. Already, things have been contentious as it is. So, that's the problem with these, and it can cause a lot of problems. Already that happened in Venezuela and other parts of the world. So I would recommend people to use privacy coins, whether it's, sure, you can use Bitcoin Cash with Cash Fusion, which is the privacy layer, but I would recommend people to use privacy coins because to protect yourself, honestly. So, we are living in contentious times, and it's a way to protect yourselves. even also, look, even financial institutions later on will realize that, hey, look, a lot of these people are tracking us, like it's creating unintended consequences. So it could also affect political leaders as well, too. Like, I mean, like, because financial privacy is a human right, and this is something like we will have these conversations in the later years. So for me, look, I'm thinking about protecting the individual, but also from a pro national security point of view, Monero makes sense than using Bitcoin.
Yep.
Or stable coins too. So I mean, I'm happy to hear people that make arguments of why governments should not use Monero. To be honest, like I want to hear that. I'm happy to have that debate because I don't think the people would have that ability to defend that point of view. To be honest. So.
No, I totally agree on your end. Now, from a technology point of view, and this is at a very, very high level, macro level point of view, one of the threat of substitution could be, let's say, newer technologies that has been developed. I very specifically remember, Marcus, when NFTs hype was just building up. That was when the whole metaverse hype kicked in, and a lot of investments from the cryptocurrency space was actually going to metaverse. And if you look at the amount of investments flowing into metaverse, that was absolutely humongous. I feel right now that investment from the metaverse space is actually going to artificial intelligence. So could it be possible that newer technologies as and when they are being developed, that investment is actually going out away from the cryptocurrency world, isn't it? So if you look at the inflows and outflows, which CoinShares often talks about, I do feel that this is directly connected to newer technologies. I wouldn't be surprised in the next 3 to 5 years, you have things like Neuralink that would take some momentum, or maybe from investments putting into artificial intelligence. And this would directly, needless to say, a lot of people will not be focusing on buying, let's say, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. They would rather go ahead and buy shares of companies that are associated with brain implants, let's say like Neuralink or any other upcoming technologies. That's what I think. So even
I could see people get into, because just for people, if you're watching this right now, let me give you some pro tip. Like if you guys are familiar with the Wayback Machine, which is like you can check the website how it looked like, say, like 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So go on Facebook.com. The current layout of what Facebook looks right now. Yep. You go back to that Wayback Machine and see how Facebook looked like 2008 or 2009. So something like that, right? So I want you guys to look into these foundations: Avalanche, Solana, Near, Hedera, Algorand, ICP. Before, and I'm not talking about go check out 9 years ago. Check 2 months ago, 3 months ago. The message they had was not about AI. It was totally something else. But now they're shifting to AI. So that should tell you, right? You don't need to look. I know if you don't like to look at charts, you don't want the blue light screen fry your eyes. I respect that. That itself should tell you, hey, they're seeing something. The money is going somewhere else. That's your signal, guys. Just saying. And I'm speculating.
In one of the companies from United Arab Emirates, that is Zisha Finance, I have to say they are one of the fastest companies to switch to new upcoming technologies. They were initially into DeFi. The moment it switched from DeFi to NFTs, they were one of the first to switch from NFTs. Then they gradually shifted into Metaverse. Now they're getting into artificial intelligence. I think it is a brilliant and smart move, isn't it? I think switching. And I'm me personally, because I do have a sports podcast as well, and I know a couple of athletes. As in when there is new thing coming up, they immediately switch and they no longer partake in the activities that they were doing before. And I think it is a brilliant smart move. It's great that you're updated with latest information. But that is pretty much everything at a very basic level. And again, guys, what you're doing is, doing a very broad overview. And I can't stress this enough. It would make more sense. It would become much more easier to, let's say, stick it only to one particular thing. Then we'll be in a better position to give examples and look at very specific use cases. Now, those are some basic level information regarding, Porter's 5-force model. Now, people have added other things as well. That is the 6th force. So, we just wanted to very briefly touch base on 6th force. and this talk about complementary products. So in the cryptocurrency and blockchain world, we can talk about airdrops, isn't it? And I was thinking, Marcos, let's say if a friend of mine who has absolutely no information regarding cryptocurrencies or blockchain, he could look at something called as airdrops, where they're promising, let's say if you buy 10,000 of these tokens, you get 10,000
Yeah.
equivalents worth of airdrops. That could be another factor that takes into consideration where his investment decision switches, let's say from buying Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies into something which is in the sixth force, that is complementary products. What about token rights? I think that could be a possibility as well, because for whales, I'm pretty much sure they have a little bit of ego, and they would say that hey, if I go out and buy this token, I go out and get to make some decision in the governance of that particular project. I think these are factors that can be taken into consideration when we talk about sixth force.
It's also a fair point too, because if you're allocating all that energy and capital, it is also risk too. So
yep.
I don't expect these whales to do it out of their achy breaky heart. I'm like, no, because again, like, I'm sure you might have got these conversations about like, oh, these whales are this, the whales are that. It is what it is. I mean, like, I don't know. So I don't know, man. I'm about to go on a deep end, so I won't.
No, I know of a very specific whale who got upset with how, it apparently hurt his feelings, and he decided to withdraw millions of dollars from Ethereum. I won't take his name, but he did actually move to Dubai. So, I don't want to take his name because I am connected to him. But he was quite upset because apparently something which Ethereum said, the Ethereum Foundation said, apparently hurt his feelings. And because of that, he literally took millions of dollars away from Ethereum. Just to give you a hint, his project was a complete scam. And it was kind of like, a casino working on top of MLM project. But nonetheless, so some of these notorious whales, they do have a bit of ego as well associated with it. Now, let's talk about the next thing, Marcos, that is digital and technological factors. And this is more from a technology point of view. Because, look, we have things like zero-knowledge proof, which is more connected to cryptography. But if you look at it in terms of, Bitcoin context or even sharding, it does not necessarily have to do anything with cryptocurrency and blockchain as such. But we tend to merge both of these, isn't it? And you associate it with Oud Foundation, where they're focusing on DeepIn, which is decentralized physical infrastructure, and how that would actually merge with artificial intelligence. So at a macro level, when you talk about cryptocurrency and blockchain, there are digital and technological factors. From an academic point of view, this makes a lot of sense. From a cryptocurrency point of view, we can talk about how Ethereum shifted from proof of work to proof of stake, essentially called 2.0.
Yeah.
Regarding Bitcoin, Marcus, I think we can even add this point. And a lot of people are not talking about it because Bitcoin actually changed from ECDSA to Taproot to Snor signature, which is a big technological change. And this happened, if I'm not mistaken, in 2021 or late 2020 or 2021. A lot of people, who put laser eyes on the Twitter profile, I'm not sure. One of the reasons why to do that was indicating that you as a miner are actually supporting that movement. So I see a lot of people, putting laser eyes on Twitter, which is great. That shows that, now we got laser vision for supporting Bitcoin and you've got a new complete vision. But a lot of the miners, what they were doing is, in order to say that they are agreeing, switching from ECDSA to Taproot and Snor signature, which is much better, by the way. And that's one of the reasons why we have Bitcoin ordinals, we have runes, we have got a lot of other things. So I thought that is one area which touches based on digital and technological factors, isn't it? And one thing, Marcus, which is developing, and I'm not sure what, because I believe we are in still early stages. And I even, the guy who you talk about, Aaron Day, I did actually post it on his LinkedIn profile as well. This is regarding state-enabled stablecoin, because Wyoming, what they're doing is, Wyoming is a very pro-Bitcoin and cryptocurrency state, by the way. They are launching their own stablecoin. And that would be backed by the US dollar. So, and I think it is an absolutely brilliant project. It also protects the US dollar. It uses blockchain technology. Could it be possible that, let's say, another pro-Bitcoin state does that? And if that thing does, I'm pretty much sure these states can transact with each other. Then it completely eliminates the whole CBDC idea as well. So there is no CBDC involved. There is stablecoin involved, but not Tether USDT, but it will be a state-backed stablecoin. I think it is a brilliant move, and I really won't be surprised if that thing gains a lot of momentum. But it's not being talked about quite a lot right now.
Yeah, I can see why it's not talked about right now. I mean, there is also a lot of like, most of the media, they tend to be connected with the government and stuff. You know, I mean, you can make cases because there's 6 of them, right? Like in the United States particularly. So, it's easier to have some sort of control or something. But sooner or later, I think I'm just seeing it from a political point of view and societal point of view is like, you know, there obviously, you know, the United States has been fragmented, similar to India too. I mean, obviously India is way more fragmented, but in the United States we're seeing that and it's being revealed. But I can see many factions will support this idea of state control because it'll empower the states to have, you know, more control. You know, it's sort of kind of like it balances, or you know, the relation between the states and the federal government. So I could see, you know, I could see this happen. When it's going to happen, I don't know. But who knows? We could see already what you mentioned, Wyoming. Maybe it's either North Dakota, maybe I guess depend. Because they are into asset protection, I could see something like that. I hope Texas and Florida may also, you know, take some hints as well.
Florida, definitely.
Florida, yeah. I know Texas. Man, I love the state, but at the same time too, I'm a little bit fickle-minded. I don't know. It's in between, so I don't know. We'll see. I need more info.
Yeah, I've said this thing so many times. I would really like to see Dubai launch their own stable coin.
Right. Yeah, I do.
Which is backed by the UAE dirham, and it would be great. We might have said this at least 10 times. Let's say the government merges with a private company and launch their own stable coin. This would be an absolute game changer as well, isn't it?
Dude, yeah. Man, I would want to talk to, I would want us to have a sit down with, so at least some of the Dubai regulators, have that conversation, have this exercise, because I think this would be really a beneficial thing for Dubai in particular. And of course, it's backed by the UAE dirham, which is part of the UAE, you know, so to me, it's a win-win situation, I guess, you know, so, and, I could see a lot of other countries too would be open to supporting supporting that currency. I mean, just because how connected Dubai is from a tourism standpoint, you know, Dubai has sister cities.
Yep.
You know, I think there's a way. It is also a peaceful movement too, in a sense. So,
yeah,
you know, yeah.
I mean, Dubai has something called as e-dirham. I'm not sure, Marcus, whenever you try to renew a license, what I'd really recommend our listeners to do is whenever you're trying to renew your license and when you do your medical test, you know, if you notice the guy who's doing the medical test, he has another separate debit card or credit card. He goes ahead and takes your payment from either your cash or debit card, and then he would also go and swipe his credit card. And that credit card is kind of, I'm not sure if it is a debit card or credit card, it is definitely a physical card. And they do the equivalent amount of transactions in that card, and that is connected to e-cash or e-dirham. So all the transactions within the government entities are settled real time. They don't use blockchain technology as such, but they use something called as e-dirham. So on the record, in the books, all the records are transacted and settled instantly. So they are not using blockchain technology whatsoever. So, you know, when you talk about digital and technological factors, I'm pretty much sure with AI, you can come up with new things. One thing, Marcus, which I did actually do in my Crypto and Coffee Day podcast today is I was trying to find out ways how in the so-called decentralized finance world, we can offer better customer support. And one logical answer that did actually come up with, let's say, having AI chatbots, they offer a customer service experience. And this is something with, you know, I think Andrea from Agentic Labs, he also talked about it, isn't it? that he's working on something similar. I think that would be an absolute game changer, particularly in the DeFi sector, which is kind of dead right now. So that could be a game changer. Now, the next thing what I wanted to touch base is regarding globalization. Now, the big question is, Markose, at a macro level, are we heading towards deglobalization after the whole COVID pandemic, or COVID pandemic, how people call it?
I guess so. We are well. From my point of view, I think we are sort of. I don't know. I think the answer is both. I would say. I don't know. Weird for me to say that, right? It depends on the context too, because when it comes to some of the financial stuff and the global taxation stuff, which I really totally dislike, I'm seeing this globalization. Like, say with the FATF or these other transnational, these organizations. In that sense, yeah. But what I'm seeing on the ground level, and, we are seeing the rise of the BRIC nations, but we're also seeing other emerging countries too. I guess now they're classified as the N11. Your Nigeria, Philippines, Egypt, Mexico, so I know some of them also joined the BRIC nations, but the BRIC is really, Brazil, Russia, India, and China. And I guess you can throw South Africa in the mix as well too. So, I guess it's good to, so in a lot of aspects, there is a multipolar world, which I think we are seeing right in our eyes, because like there is a lot of power shift that is taking place. I mean, like guys like, Jim Rogers, he was a partner with George Soros. He's a commodities king guy, so he talked about this multipolar world. So I guess from a degrees where the needle shifting is sort of deglobalizing, I guess, in some sense, in many aspects, I guess, but there is still some, obviously I would say like there's some aspects where, the West is trying to globalize some aspects in terms of the financial systems and stuff. So that's why you see a lot of tension between crypto and the TradFi space. So, I guess that's evident, I guess. But yeah. So I guess my answer is both. So I know, George. No, I know if that helps you, I guess.
Mine is a contradicting you, because I think the world is heading towards deglobalization. And this is actually led by none other than Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock. And he actually writes a letter. And in that letter, he's actually talking about deglobalization. So what he's talking about is, McDonald's, let's say, having their headquarters in the United States of America, they would be broken down into regional territories. And that's one of the reasons why you will see in the next coming decades, maybe it might span over a couple of decades, you might see a lot of the so-called McDonald's having a different new entity being built up, let's say in Dubai, a completely different one in Singapore, a completely different one in London. But these will still be managed by, some top heavyweight giants, let's say like BlackRock or Vanguard. In the space, or in my sporting podcast, with the race based podcast that I have, I'm already seeing that a lot of local, obstacle course races, they have already taken over some of the top giants. I think we briefly touched base upon Al Bake, Markose, which is one of your favorite restaurants.
Man, guys, Al Bake, sponsor us, y'all. Sponsor us.
So, could it be possible that, in the next few decades, there must be a lot of these smaller retail giants making a lot of headways? So, I think when you talk about globalization from a Bitcoin and cryptocurrency point of view, what is the kind of cryptocurrency will they want to use? And this is at a very, very macro level. And this is the area I do feel that, IMF and, Mika in Europe, they want to go out and have a lot of say. They probably don't want Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies to be utilized in the next couple of decades, isn't it? And that's one of the reasons why, Markose, they have a lot of attack on privacy as well. We looked at what happened on Tornado Cash. We looked at what happened recently with Telegram. And, even privacy as well. But
that's right. I would also want to add also in relation with Roger Ver. Reason, because he has released a book, Hijacking Bitcoin. So, if you read the book, you do see some government involvement as well. Intelligence agencies getting involved with the hijack of Bitcoin in relation to Digital Garage, Jeffrey Epstein, all that stuff. But anyways, I mean, he didn't go directly into that, but I think if you research enough, you'll see that. But also, Roger was also, he got into Bitcoin when it was $1. He got into Monero when it was $1. And also, he's also got into Xano, which is another privacy project. Think of it as, building privacy tokens, so at $1. So, it definitely, it should get you guys to think why this stuff is happening. Right? It's all in relation to privacy, free speech, self-custody, all that stuff. So, I just want you guys to think, to ponder, to evaluate, and you can see why. And what George says right here, look, I agree with him. In many ways, I do agree with him. I do believe what he says, and yeah, I'm happy to be wrong. So, and I'm glad. Look, if we are de-globalizing, that's great. So which personally for me, because I want more freedom in our lives, more economic and financial freedom to do amazing stuff. So that's what I care about. So definitely, George, I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
I remember, when I was doing my master's, there was an article which was written that asked, "Is the world modernizing or is it Americanizing?" And at that point of time, you could confidently state that the world is Americanizing. But fast forward to 2024, I really am not sure if the world wants to be Americanized. I'm pretty much sure United Arab Emirates is definitely more modernized than some parts of United States of America. I mean, if you look at the quality of movies, I'm not sure, Marcus, if you watch South Korean movies, I think they're significantly much better, less cringier than, the whole Hollywood crap. So I think the change is happening.
No, yeah.
I think the world is definitely modernizing now than, Americanizing. Now, the next part I wanted to touch base is regarding dynamic capabilities, and this is something, which you've already gone through, and some of these points are just kind of interconnected. That is, Bitcoin switching from ECDSA to Taproot and Install Signature. We talked about Ethereum, so it's essentially about technology having dynamic capabilities that is, going far beyond what it initially intended to. So when you talk about even Bitcoin for that matter, Markose, right now we have ETF, isn't it? That is kind of merging with the whole traditional finance space. So Bitcoin ETF, you have spot Bitcoin ETF, you have spot Ethereum ETF as well, and the new hype that is pumping up right now that is to do with tokenization. So this dynamic capabilities of merging, let's say, your current existing system with something completely different. And there's this news about Tether USDT. They are actively working with, I believe, a company in Argentina on tokenization as well. So a giant company like Tether getting into tokenization will be an absolute game changer. So, having the ability to go and branch out to different areas, I think this is at a macro level makes quite a lot of sense as well. Something which I'm pretty much sure we did not anticipate, when we got into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, isn't
it? Yeah. I know. Yeah. Look, being in the space, I mean, there have been so many unexpected stuff coming to play, and I guess it's kind of expected because, again, in many ways it is a startup industry, so things move fast, a lot of things are happening. It can be chaotic, but I think that's the beauty behind it, and so. Which now I've learned to accept it and appreciate it and take it into stride. So not. I know many of my corporate friends, they are not comfortable with with the turmoil, the turbulence. But that's part and parcel of the game, and the world is also changing pretty fast too. So I guess for many of us out here, we're used to it. So. For us, change has always been the same. That's how I take it.
Yep, Very true. And the final point, Marcus, I wanted to touch base that is regarding environmental and social factors. It's needless to say when we talk about Bitcoin, we talk about ESG, isn't it? So the big question is, where does proof of mining fit into this? And we know the answer to that. That is the whole ESG hype, which was primarily driven by BlackRock. And then you also identify the COP28, where they're focusing on green energy. And at a macro level, and this is more from a political point of view, I think our listeners should check what the Paris Accord is. And you'll be surprised on some of the tiny details that go into it. Where pretty much nothing is done for the next 40 years, but a lot of the countries will be investing in it. So the big question is, where does the money come from? And the answer is taxation. So, now going back to cryptocurrency and blockchain, what are the environmental and social factors? Now we clearly know what Ethereum did. They switched from proof of work to proof of stake. So they have kind of tackled that. Now, with giants like BlackRock and Vanek getting into Bitcoin, because we talked about the buying power and the amount of Bitcoins they currently have, could they directly or indirectly switch Bitcoin's proof of work to proof of stake? I'm hoping definitely not, but I think our listeners should definitely check crypto innovation, cryptocurrency innovation. Because, it's a great thing that Michael Saylor, despite I bashing him quite often, he's actually educating a lot of these so-called companies the benefits of proof of mining. But look, man, knowing the power of BlackRock, if they decide that, let's switch from proof of work to proof of stake, I don't know what would happen to that. And I think our listeners, if you're a Bitcoin maximalist or disagree to it, please let me know, because I kind of agree that this is not possible as well. But I'm just putting out some wild scenarios regarding this.
No, but George, I don't want to discount, your legacy in the space and your history too, because look, just like me, you have seen the hash wars, that who Blockstream is, and MasterCard Ventures, behind the scenes also being involved and all that stuff. So the way I see it is they have influenced, the decisions and stuff, with the trajectory of, Bitcoin. And I wouldn't be surprised too, because a lot of the Bitcoiners, look, these guys all got paid, big hefty salaries and stuff. So and now BlackRock is also funding some of these Bitcoiners too. So, and also Aaron Day also mentioned about with the regulated liability network is actually developed by some of these Bitcoiners too. So, whoever's, paying for these guys has control, so it is a possibility. So, we cannot ignore, because a lot of people have been arguing over the technical stuff, but they are not talking about what made Bitcoin really successful is not the technology, but the economic model, the praxeology, how the economics of human behavior help create this, the relationship with the miners, the nodes, the users, that has been altered. And can this happen again? Guys, I think we should be open to that, to be honest. So that's why other altcoins come in, or some of them call them shitcoin. Even Toneway is called Monero shitcoin, which I kind of detest. But there's a reason for that, and that's also the reason why stablecoins are being used. So I don't know. So I guess we should be open to that possibility. So look, it's better to let me end this by saying this. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than to be a gardener in war or in the battlefield. So all I'm saying is you have to be aggressively patient, aggressively aware, be vigilant. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yep, I think absolutely spot on. And the only thing I can say is, regarding a lot of the Bitcoin OGs, such as Andreas Antonopoulos and the host from Let's Talk Bitcoin, which they have stopped the podcast, I don't know why, they were not fans of, in El Salvador adopting Bitcoin a legal tender. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. also said that, what happens if there is a fork? Who has control over the decision-making process? Will it be BlackRock? Who can go and switch the narrative? So I think these are at a macro level we need to understand. So that's about all. I think we have covered pretty much everything. So what I'd really want our listeners to do is, this is just a very, very generalized view. We may not be perfect in this. It would make more sense, let's say, if we do best analysis only on Bitcoin, only on Ethereum, only on stable coins, maybe only on artificial intelligence. And if you do want to collaborate or work on it, or want to go ahead and sponsor us, drop us an email at info@blockchaindxp.com or even to Markose Chentittha from Oot. And we can definitely have a much more specific best in our session, or even on Metaverse for that matter. Then we can make a much better comparison. It becomes much more easier to go ahead and explain this. And probably some student who's trying to do his MBA or Masters will definitely be benefited by it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. We definitely need some fresh blood, some young people, partake in this. They have a lot of scope and opportunity to try some really amazing stuff. Look, if you want to try business, you want to try entrepreneurship, you want to try a lot of things, entering into the crypto, blockchain, Web3 plus AI, wow, you're going to cover a lot of things. So it's a great school, actually.
Yeah, I think you've done pretty much everything, isn't it, Markose?
Yeah, yes, sir. But hey, John, thank you for covering the Porter's 5 forces model on Bitcoin, crypto, and blockchain in its totality. And I know, look, honestly, this should be more of a sort of like a 3-hour masterclass. But obviously, time is limited for us. But definitely, look, we can always come back again, because we are open to new ideas, new infos coming in. So definitely, hey, look, George, thank you so much for covering all this stuff, and appreciate you taking the time to cover all these different insights and give us a better understanding on how this industry is growing and where it is flowing. So that being said, thank you so much. And if people want to reach out to you, George, where can they find you?
info@blockchaindxp.com. And my website is...
And also your podcast.
Yeah, and also my podcast, which is blockchaindxp.com.
Absolutely. Yeah. So definitely we need to do that. And hey, so special thanks to our friends from the Ord Foundation for supporting us. And we will see you guys Thursday. We'll keep you posted, because we will be covering the Web3 plus AI festival here in Dubai at the beautiful Medina Jumeirah. So definitely you'll see Ort over there, and many of our amazing friends here in Dubai. So definitely I'm excited for this. So y'all be good. Y'all be safe. We will talk to you soon.
Take
Bye
care.
for now.